Have you ever found yourself puzzled about the difference between EGP and ESP in EFL teaching? It's a conundrum that's been on the minds of many educators in the field. EGP, or English for General Purposes, and ESP, English for Specific Purposes, are two key concepts that can greatly influence your approach to teaching English as a foreign language. But what exactly do they mean? How can they shape your teaching methods? Let's dive into these concepts and see how they can be applied in your classroom. Imagine you're teaching English to someone who just wants to learn the language for general use, maybe for travel or to communicate with English speakers. That's EGP in a nutshell. EGP, or English for General Purposes, is a teaching approach that covers broad aspects of the English language. It's like a buffet of English language skills, serving up reading, writing, listening, and speaking, seasoned with a dash of grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation. It's a comprehensive way to teach English, without the constraints of focusing on a particular profession or field of study. Let's say, for instance, you have a student who wants to backpack around the world. She needs to understand road signs, ask for directions, order food, and make small talk. In this case, EGP is the perfect fit. It gives her the linguistic tools she needs to navigate different situations and interactions, from the bustling streets of New York to the serene countryside of England. So EGP is your go-to approach when teaching English for everyday use. Now, what if your student needs English for a specific job, like being a pilot or a doctor? Here's where ESP comes into play. ESP stands for English for Specific Purposes. It's a unique approach to teaching English that is customized to the specific needs of the learner. Instead of teaching general English, we focus on the language and skills that the student will actually use in their professional or academic life. Let's say you're teaching English to a group of pilots. In an ESP class, you'd concentrate on aviation terminology, phrases used in the cockpit, and perhaps even simulate radio communication between pilots and air traffic controllers. Or let's imagine you're teaching English to medical students. You'd focus on medical vocabulary, patient interaction, and reading medical journals in English. The beauty of ESP is that it makes English relevant and practical for the learner. It's not about learning English for the sake of learning English. It's about learning English to achieve a specific goal. So ESP is your best bet when teaching English for specific professional or academic needs. Now that you understand EGP and ESP, how do you apply them in your classroom? Well, let's dive into that. When it comes to EGP, think about creating an environment that mirrors everyday situations. One example could be role-playing a trip to the grocery store or a doctor's appointment. This will help your students apply their English skills in practical, real-world scenarios. On the other hand, ESP teaching requires a more specialized approach. You want to focus on the specific language skills your students need for their fields. For instance, conducting mock job interviews or creating business presentations can be effective activities. Remember to keep your lessons interactive and dynamic. This will encourage active participation and enhance language learning. In both cases, don't forget to provide feedback and corrections, as these are crucial components of language learning. Remember, whether you're teaching EGP or ESP, your goal is to meet your students' specific needs and help them communicate effectively in English.